Looks like we're live. Today I want to share with you something that's probably going to be very useful. It may be a little bit technical for people who don't know about commercial financing. This is a deep dive into commercial financing issues, mainly speaking environmental report. Now, it's going to get a lot of work in here, so I think I'll take off this outside suit for now, just so that I can really get into things. Laying over here. Now, the problem with this is these environmental report that is required on a lot of commercial files. Any mortgage broker who started doing commercial financing will come across this, and they would scratch their head. In most circumstances, the realtor would report say, look, you don't need it. It's a brand new building. You don't need it. And the lender say, we need it. And the realtor is telling the broker, we don't have it. You don't need it. It's a brand new building. Or in certain situations, look, it's a concrete tower, office building. Why the hell are they going to need that? There's no reasoning, right? So before I get into the issues and challenges on how to overcome it, I want to help you understand why they need it. And then you have a better idea, right? In the previous episode I've created already, I've uploaded, and you can check it out on YouTube and Instagram as well as Facebook and possibly LinkedIn as well. The requirement is, it is what it is. Lenders, it's their money, it's their game. You want to play by their rules or you don't. That's it, right? At the end of the day is, you want their money, play by their rules, right? Now there is some exception, and I'll get into that later. The understanding is this: it's because they need to, at the end of the day, unequivocally give their assurances to their investors, or for that instance, the government money and taxpayers inevitably that pays for this, right? If we're dealing with a government, pseudo-government agencies such as ATV in Alberta, Alberta Treasury branch there, and BDC, the Business Development Corporation of Canada, that's really the government's money, and at the end of the day, it's taxpayers' money, right? We don't want to be assured that the money is good and that we're investing into property that's not going to require a lot more money down the road if something crops up. If there's some underlying issues with the property, either not the easements, but underneath, whether it's caused by them or adjacent properties, right? You don't know, and that's what the environmental report does. Is it gives a lot of assurance so that this property is clean now, in the past, and moving into the future, we don't foresee any circumstances or any issues that may crop up, right? So it's good. No ifs, right? As an investor, honestly, I would really want to know that I'm buying a property that is clean, no contaminations, so that I'll be off the hook. And for the insurance reason too as well, right? That helps to give some assurance that the insurance company is gonna back you up when the situation comes down that there was some environmental issues, but you bought it as a clean because the report says it's clean. And end of the day is the environmental company have insurance on their side too to protect them in case that, oops, they made a mistake, right? We are human natures and errors does happen. So let's get down to the reason about the requirements for these things, right? So you have to understand when you have an environmental report request, the one thing that I want to look at is the ORS, I call it, right? When you want to request the lender to not need an environmental report, you really gotta have to look at the reasonability test, right? The reasonability test is to see whether it makes sense to ask for this, first of all, right? I'll give you an idea. If you have the property is surrounded by industrial, meaning there's a mechanic shop, there's a welding shop, there's a tire loop shop next door, right? Does it make sense? Is it reasonable to ask the lender, say, hey, we don't need environmental, right? I'm just being facetious, but no, it's not reasonable to ask them, we don't want to. It's like, you're not giving yourself and your investor a favor by asking for a waiver. Chances are they won't give it to you anyway, right? The other thing you may want to look at is the property type. Is it reasonable to ask for a waiver? If it's a retail outlet surrounded by office building or apartment buildings nearby, perhaps, right? Then it's reasonable that, hey, I can make a case for it. I'll get into making a case for it in a bit. The other thing you want to look at is, isn't it reasonable that perhaps this property may have some contamination? You don't want to make a quick buck and get your investor or your client the money, and down the road they're going to end up stiffing the bill because they're going to have to get some cleanup. Environmental issues going to crop up. They have to do the cleanup. And then what? And then you're not doing yourself a favor or your investors a favor, because now they can't purchase other property, they can't refinance. So you're hooked as a financier, or as a realtor for that matter. So don't try to circumvent these safety nets that we have in place so that it protects everybody involved, right? I want to have the win-win-win situation rather than a win-lose-win, right? Somebody's going to lose. That means eventually everybody's going to lose. The other one you want to look at is, what is potential cost, right? What do we call this? Restitution, or what do you call it? I call it, responsibility. Well, who's going to be responsible for this down the road, right? If you ask for the waiver, the client, not the lender, not any company, not the realtor, but the buyer is going to be on the hook for this down the road. It could be a massive amount of money, right? We don't know this. If it's an older building, right, then you want to look at what's the cost down the road and who's going to be responsible for footing the bill. The client's going to end up footing the bill. It may cost up to $1 million, hundreds of millions of dollars. Who knows, right? That'd be sometimes out way beyond any capacity of any investors to be able to do the cleanup. Why you need that report is specifically responsibility. If the environmental report company comes back and say it's clean, and later on we find out that it isn't, so who's responsible, right? The environmental company who gave the clean bill of health on that property may end up having to pay for that, but they have insurance that may cover it. We're talking about millions and tens of millions of dollars, perhaps even $100 million worth of insurance coverage. But that's the business that they're in, right? And you have to understand they do considerable amount of work and investigation into finding out whether this property is actually clean or not, right? So responsibility, because at the end of the day, the lender doesn't want to be held responsible to do the cleanup. They really don't. So what they end up doing is asking you to sign a waiver and asking your client to sign a waiver that your client's going to be held responsible if anything ever comes up. And I'll discuss about the waiver in a bit here. It's not a light matter. I mean, sure, we can save a couple $1,000s, but honestly, does it make sense? Right? Go back to reasonability. Does it make sense to save $2,000, $3,000, maybe $5,000 to avoid having to do a report when you're buying a couple $1 million property? I understand if it's a straight office building, yes, reasonability, that type of property, how old it is, perhaps, yeah, avoid it and get a waiver, right? But if you're looking at a massive property, whether it's a strip mall you're buying, we're talking about $3, $4, $5 million, $10 million, apartment building, that's $5, $10, $15 million. Honestly, I will sleep better knowing that it's a clean property and the environmental company is going to be on the hook if something ever comes up, right? Perfect. So the reality of the situation is this. Every deal, especially when you're talking about partners who are realtor partners as well as financiers who haven't been in this game long enough and they don't understand the timelines required, right? The timeline required to do any kind of report is really varies, depends on where it is, how big it is, how complicated it is, how many units there are. So the timeline, it can extend 4 to 6 weeks to get a report done. Now, some realtor may come and push back and say, look, we only give you 2 weeks. That's not reasonable at all, right? That won't give you enough time to do the report. So that may sink the deal, and nothing you can do about to save it except maybe perhaps going to private side hard money lending to get the money. But if we do it, we're talking specific today about institutional lenders and perhaps a B lender, trust, corporation, insurance company, smaller banks, credit unions, perhaps. You really need to understand why they need it and whose benefit's going to be, right? At the end of the day, if you're going to make money, do it the right way, right? And that's what I want to talk about too. It's like, do it right. There's no scenarios where you should cut corners and you should do whatever's in your best pocket's interest. I've always been an advocate of always do what's right. Do what's right for the client, do what's right for the lender, do what's right for all the parties involved, right? Do what is right all the time, not sometime, not when it suits you, all right? Do all the time. Sometimes it sucks. Sometimes I gotta bite the bullet. And like an example where they want an environmental report, and I'm totally against it, and I did my reasonability test, and that we don't require, right? It comes down to push and shove. Now you have to sell it to your client to get it done, and perhaps go above beyond. Talk to the realtor, talk to the owner that's listed the property to sell. Sometimes the realtors had enough, right? The owners won't want to do it. They don't want to change their mind. They don't want to avoid having an extension, right? They extended this so that allows the environmental report to be done. Sometimes the realtors don't want that, right? They've done so many deals fall apart. They don't want to do the extension anymore. This or that. But at the end of the day, I'm always wanting to help my realtor make the commission. And that's one line I like to use, right? Hey, I'm in here to help you make your commission, right? Let's work together to get this result. I know unequivocally that there's no issues here. We just need to extend it because the timeline requires to do this, right? At the end of the day is save the deal somehow. Sometimes you may have to talk to the owner, and has nothing to do with the property. I've done it before where you say, hey, Mr. Realtor partner, I understand, your client, the seller doesn't want to talk, doesn't want to do nothing. Do you mind if I just get a minute of his time? And as a professional, you owe to go the extra mile by doing this. And I've done so many times that I've overcome their objection about not allowing the extension, because we know that we can get the money. We know that we can have a clean bill to get the money. That's the end of the day. Right? Show me the money, right? In the Jerry Maguire movie, and I love the movie. That's my job, is to show the money, right? So that to get the job done. Now, if so happens that you get a pushback on the environmental report, how do you avoid getting it done, right? Sometimes you have to get it done. So here's what you can do, though. Make a case for not getting done, okay? But you need to do your research, right? A lot of research is going to have to come into it. And I think the reasonable value comes with the research, too. I like ours for some reason, right? Repetition. Research. Once you've done your research, what research you need to do? I understand that all lenders want to make sure a couple of things. A, it's no heavy industrial use in the area. No previous use of hazardous waste material kept on premise in the past, now, or possibly in the future too. It depends on the client's type of business. The client's types of business is hazmat removal. Lenders might be more concerned about future business rather than past business. All right, than the past use of that property. They're more concerned about the future use. Now, there you have to make a case and make sure you make a note of that they don't store anything in the premise, that it gets removed before it comes, they're only using it for storage or whatever, operating the business. So when you have a condition that's mandatory, you really need to get it done. I mean, the ones that are really mandatory as far as the federal government types of loans, which very hard to avoid getting those reports done, right? So you just gotta bite the bullet, somehow get it done, right? To avoid other institutional lenders is do your homework. I've spoken to my colleagues, perhaps an appraiser company, environmental appraiser company that has done some research in the area before. They've done all the several properties around that subject property. There is no contaminations ever in any of the other properties. So chances are, if your subject property is in the middle, there's probably no contamination, right? So make a case of that one. Secondly, when you do your homework, there's no industrial area around there. There's no industrial business in there, especially medium or heavy. Light industrial may not be a big concern, with the exception of dry cleaners. They used to have particulates in the dry cleaning business that somehow seeps through the sewer. They didn't dispose it properly, and it contaminates because the particles last a long time. Their half-life is 50, 60 years or longer. So when it rains, it spreads amongst the other adjacent property, right? So it really infects every other property that's close by. And that's a no-no for the lender because they're being held responsible for all the others as well, not just the subject property. So that is one. Other issues with mechanic shops. Any mechanic shop that kept waste oil on the premise in the past, today it's a high requirement to not allow that anymore, right? Most places are taken off before or end of the day, right? The other one would be not just a mechanic shop, but anything to do with, hazardous material is one thing. I mean, it's just common sense. Just think about it. It's common sense. So the biggest thing that you have to worry about is any gas stations that's nearby, and like industrial area, is typically have some auto body shop. Just be careful. It's hard to make a case if there is one. So in the area, there's nothing, no concern, no industrial, no heavy use of any type of those industry, no dry cleaning. Then you can certainly make a case that, hey, let's avoid this. We don't need this. And the client has a high chance that there's not going to be any future issues where they'll be stuck and be responsible for that money, right? And you feel good about it because you're making a great case and you're saving them, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for this doggone report that can kill a deal. Because in those reports, here's one thing. You have to understand these reports are opinion. Oh man, my spelling. It's an opinion from that appraiser, okay? I've had in the past even appraisal report that came back requiring a second stage, phase 2 environmental. Now stage 1, a phase 1 environmental or stage 1, it's the same thing. It takes 7 to 10 business days, so roughly almost 2 weeks sometimes. Could possibly take 3 weeks, depending on the location. If it's outside the city, right? Harder to get at. Then you're really killing time. Although you can get the financing pretty quick within a week or two, or a few business days for that matter, the subject matter is that it takes longer to get these things done. Now, when a stage 2 comes back requiring a second phase 2 report, what does that mean? It means that now they have to come back again, do some soil sample, dig some boreholes around the property line to make sure that they got enough samples to send it to a laboratory. The laboratory would, do all their scientific analysis, whatever they do. The report is 50, 60 pages long. And by workshop, I'll go into details about it. If you're interested about how to dissect that stuff, right? Today's more surface level, so that I'm taking a lot of time out of this already. So it's an opinion. Sometimes you may need to get a second opinion to avoid this. I'd rather get another stage 1 report. It could take 7, 10 business days, rather than waste another 3 to 4 weeks for a phase 2 environmental, which, by the way, costs double minimum of what the first stage 1 report is, right? So not that it takes more time, but it costs twice as much, right? At the minimum. So waste more money, waste more time. Nobody wants to do that, right? And I've done in the past where I call the above because at the end of the day, it's their opinion. So I use a different environmental company to come in to do a stage one report. Most of the time, it comes back, it's clean. It's a different set of opinion. And if you know the area is fairly clean, chances are it's going to be okay, right? I took on that responsibility because I want to do what's right and I want to save them time. And said, you know what? Let's do this. I told the client, let's do this because it'll save you time and it'll save you money. Another report, $2,500 to $3,500 rather than spending $10,000 to $15,000, $20,000 for stage two, right? $10,000 minimum, which is 3-4 times. Forget about double, right? And in that scenario, the client said, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. And I was willing to say, if it comes back bad and they need the stage two, I'll pay for that second report already. I'll pay for that stage one report, and we have to do stage two, or walk away from the deal, right? Cost them $2,500, cost them $2,500, but people walk away knowing that it's going to be okay. They don't lose sleep over it because this property is not going to sell at its price because it's contaminated, right? So long story short, get your ducks in a row. Make sure the area is not contaminated. Make sure it has no chance of contamination. Make sure current use, past use, and if you're lucky enough, you know a lender who has access to the environmental registry, just quick phone call to your favorite banker guy and say, hey, do you mind do a quick lookup on this property? And if it's clean, chances are, they have done finance in the area. Chances are they have done a whole bunch of properties around there, and all the other properties they have in their own database in their books that are clean. Then you're most likely gonna have a clean property, and your client will be thrilled to waive that and to not pay for that money. And that report, the money saved is money earned and time as well, and your realtor will love you as well, right? So hopefully that helps. I know it's a lot to digest, and I went through pretty quick as fast as I can. Time is money, my friend, right? Do you want to learn more? You want to dive deeper into this? You can check out my workshop, commercialfinancingmastery.com. Check commercialfinancingmastery.com. I have specials going to be released soon, and we have a live online training as well as workshop and one-on-one coach and all that stuff. Anyway, reach out to me if you have any questions. Sue, S-U-A, at commercialfinancingmastery.com. And direct message me on any of the social media platform. I'm happy to answer your questions. And any question you may have, I may do another video for you in the future. Okay? Take care, guys. See you at the top. Oh, 22 minutes. How do I end this? There it is.